Hello, my name is Joseph Bassett and I'll be narrating this video for you today. This is another video of the Pluribus strip till unit. This strip till video was made in Faribault County in southern Minnesota, basically right off Interstate 90 there. It's an area with some really heavy soils in different spots. This corn was harvested probably, I'd say, 2 to 3 weeks ago. Made a really good choice in leaving the stalks long. Here you can see me on the four-wheeler coming up to the machine. We're running right in between the rows. Here you can see him moving along at a really good speed. The conditions were probably just about ideal when we were running this. You know, just a little bit of moisture in the ground. The stalks are nice and long, so they comb through the unit well. Toolbars has plenty of weight, keep the row units in the ground. No tires in the way. Looks like I think it's about an 8420, 8430 he has there. And nothing keeping it from pulling along at 9 or 10 miles an hour. Notice that this customer is not putting fertilizer down right now. This is a lot of weight back there on that 3-point mounted bar for a lot of tractors, so most people will, on a 30-foot bar like this, are going to probably have a lift assist system of some sort or another. Notice that these units do have the hydraulic down pressure on them also, so you can just dial a knob there on the tongue. Look at the fluid motion of the soil coming out of the back end of this. You know, that's when you know that the high-speed unit is really operating properly, is when you see that plume of soil coming out of the back. I guess I should mention also that this was an extremely windy day, probably 30, 35 mile an hour winds gusting to 40 miles an hour. So when you see that residue just kind of blowing back over the strip, you know, again, it is the wind that's doing that. These are the high-speed units. Here you'll see a little close-up of the soil exiting the unit. How the swirls, the double swirls, are confining the soil right in between them, breaking up the clods. The kind of powdery, very, very loose, friable finish that you see coming out of the back of the unit is going to be typical of a fall sort of moisture level. In the spring, you're not going to get quite as fine of a level of tilth, but that's okay. This is a really nice angle. I like that angle there where you can see how streamlined the unit is, where it's just redirecting the flow of residue around the outside of the unit. I think in some spots here, I'm the guy on the four-wheeler, and I think in some spots we were probably pushing 10 or 11 miles an hour pretty easily. You know, in some areas of the northern corn belt like this, and these guys in northern Iowa, and not so much northern Iowa, but in central Minnesota, in the really heavy black ground, they might even want to run this unit through twice. You know, they really want that very black, very, very clearly defined strip, and they want to do everything they can to get the soil temperature as high as possible, and they'll just run it over once in the fall real fast like this, and then come back and maybe put down some fertilizer with it in the spring. I really cannot overstate the importance of leaving the stalks long like you see there. It just makes everything so easy. The more residue you have standing up in the long plant, the less of it is on the ground, the less of it the row cleaners have to push away, and the longer stalks also really comb through the unit. That effect of the long stalk combing through the unit like that is very, very powerful, and really keeps the residue moving. And you know, some people might look at this video and say, okay, we're going with the grain. If the stalks are leaning a little bit, is there a difference between when you're going with the lean of the stalk versus going against it? And I really haven't seen very much effect from a different lean, as long as the stalks are standing. Now, if these stalks are down and laying crossways on the ground, that's a totally different story. But as long as the stalks are standing up, you're in good shape. Thanks a lot.